Tell me, darling, could we run away? We could hide away by the cactus desert blue. I can see it just a mile away from this crowded place. I could lay there next to you.
Welcome back to our channel, Best Freaking Friends Forever. Thank you guys again for joining us. And again, happy Mother's Day. If you guys didn't catch our first episode, we're doing Mother's Day movies this week. So today we did Steel Magnolias. Its budget was $15 million. It made opening weekend $5 million, which with inflation is $11 million. Yeah. And I think it's another one of those movies that just, I feel like it gets better as the years go on. Like it's one that each generation, I feel like, picks up on it. Well, I feel like it's a good Mother's Day one because of the relationship between Shelby and Malin. Mm-hmm. I think it was a good one to pick. And just their bond and how much, I mean, you see Malin really does care for her and tries to take care of her.
Yeah, and she loves that baby that Shelby had.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that too. Just in a short amount of time that we get to see that, you could tell that she really cared for him too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we see more scenes of her and the baby together than Shelby with the baby.
I think my favorite line is when Shelby's telling Malin, she says, "Mama, I don't know why you have to make everything so difficult. I look at having a baby as the opportunity of a lifetime. Sure, there may be risks involved, but that's true for anybody. But you get through it and life goes on. And when it's all said and done, there will be a little piece of immortality with Jackson's good looks and my sense of style, I hope. Please, please, I need your support. I would rather have 30 minutes of wonderful than a lifetime of nothing special." I don't know why that line bothered me so much.
I love that.
Why, I don't know. I love that line.
I do too. And that might be my favorite out of the entire movie. Because she does. She makes a really good point. Everybody has a risk with pregnancy. All of us do. So, you know, of course, her risk is greater for obvious reasons. But I understand that. Like, to have that little piece of moment, like that little joy.
Because, you know, like, to see Malin's, her mom, her perspective, she knows her situation. She knows her medical history. I mean, to me, I didn't realize it was bad enough that they wouldn't let her adopt based on her medical history. I mean, obviously, they don't go into detail what has happened to her previously, but I mean, diabetes can ravage your body. So, I mean, I get where Malin's coming from. And that's why she kind of talked to Jackson at the wedding and was like, basically telling him, I don't think you should do that.
Yeah. Well, her mom, it's hard from a mom's perspective. You see your child suffering and you don't want there to be any more suffering. So that, I don't think she ever wanted to take anything away from Shelby. She never wanted to take away a motherhood, those sorts of things from her. It was just, she didn't want to see her daughter in any more pain than she had to be in. Mm-hmm. And I mean, ultimately what it did to her is what Malin was trying to avoid all along. So the very beginning, it's Shelby's wedding. They're preparing for the wedding, but they go to Truvy's little place so that they can get ready for the wedding. And they're talking about the colors of the wedding too there. And she says, they're not, because her mom's like, they're pink and pink. And she's like, no, they're blush and bashful. Well, Jackson shows up when Shelby's taking a bath, and Jackson shows up, and there's briefly there we get to hear about the baby situation. They're talking about Shelby and Jackson together, and Shelby lets out that she told Jackson she wasn't going to marry him. And it was because, well, we get into that too in a moment. But then we start noticing Shelby's having some problems. Like, she's pulling at the collar of her cape that they have on her, and we can kind of slowly see in her start to have an episode. And I think that's the only one we see in the movie. But yeah, she has that episode, and that always breaks my heart watching that scene. Julia Roberts, man, like on point. I mean, everybody in this movie was on point.
Sally Field in some of her scenes, wow.
Oh, yeah, and I'm not a big fan of her, but in this movie, she's really good. Especially at the very end. You know, all the ladies are surrounded around her, you know, making sure that they can do anything they can to help Shelby while she's having this episode. And Malin mentions that she says in that scene, children are not an option. So she never said she couldn't have them or she can't have them, nothing like that. She just said they were not an option. I like the scene where they smash the eggs. I just wanted to bring that up real quick. That scene always...
their faces when Weezer gets mad and starts, what'd she say? Kill.
Yeah. Well, anytime I watch a movie and I see things like where they smash the eggs, it gives me such anxiety because I'm like, who has to clean that up?
Well, it looked like, I started thinking of that too, but it looked like they were hard boiled. Each significant event in the movie falls around a holiday. So Shelby's wedding is Easter. Shelby's return and pregnancy announcement is Christmas. Mm-hmm. Shelby's surgery and her son's birthday celebration, 4th of July. Mm-hmm. And then Annelle's bridal shower and Shelby's collapse are Halloween. Annelle goes into labor on Easter.
One thing I noticed with the last thing I had about the wedding portion of the movie was nobody stood when Shelby walked down the aisle. That's like a big tradition for weddings, and nobody stood.
I thought it was funny that Malin hid the gun.
Yeah.
And then they go and get the bow and arrow and they put firecrackers on it and shoot it into the tree. Like, that's going to be a good idea.
Right, and that's what really set Weezer's dog off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he ran away.
Something else I noticed, I never noticed before until I watched it this time, was when they're walking Jackson up to the door to get Shelby to take her away, some of the guys are dressed in Confederate uniforms.
Yeah. I thought that was, but see, they're in the deep South. They're in Louisiana too, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, they do a lot of reenactions down there.
Yeah. Yep.
But get this, Malin's 2 sons were named Thomas and Jonathan, and their daughter's fiance was named Jackson. Thomas Jonathan Jackson was the legendary Confederate general known as Stonewall Jackson.
And because I've not seen this movie all the way through, so I kind of wondered when she first showed up if she was going to, because this is when it all leads up to her announcing and all that stuff. I wondered if she was, and this was before I had watched it. Because you wonder. And I don't think they ever say where they moved to, did they?
Mm-mm. No. Well, and something else I noticed was, so we get to see a little bit of Truby's marriage and how it's just not, she even says the romance is not like it was when it was earlier on. But he kind of seemed to fall on hard times himself. Yeah, so when Weezer and Clary are in the locker room, I never noticed this either until this time. She pulls out that mirror to like look behind her shoulder. I was like, oh, Weezer. Shelby tells her mom that she's going to have a baby, which earlier you talked about because Shelby and Malin go back and forth a lot. And Shelby like begs her, like, please, I need your help. And she wants, they were close, mother and daughter wise. I'm sure Shelby wanted, when Shelby had a baby, she would want the 3 of them to be close. And we kind of get to hear a little bit that there's trouble in her marriage. Says, I think it would help things a lot. And to me, that implies that they're having some trouble. And Shelby accuses her mom of being jealous. She, basically, I'm grown up now. You can't call the shots anymore. You're just jealous that you can't.
And I think Malin gets a bad rap for that. Like, I feel like her character in and of itself, I feel like she wants to take care of her. I mean, you see that in the barber scene or the barbershop or the shop scene where she is taking care of her because she wants her to be healthy. Mm-hmm. And, as a diabetic, it would have to be hard to be a diabetic and live in the South with the sweet tea and just all that stuff. And they're still giving it to her and she's still drinking it. Mm-hmm. Like at the fair, I think she had sweet tea at the fair. And I'm like, pretty sure if you're a diabetic, that's probably not a good idea for you.
No.
I mean, just saying. Because I thought about that too. And I'm like, there's probably so many things that she was eating and not eating that she shouldn't have been, and drink like the sweet tea. That, I mean, if you're a really bad diabetic, that stuff's no joke. Like, you can't be doing that.
No, you're right. Well, and then, so they announced it at that little Christmas party that they had, and Malin walks away, and Weezer's with her, and then the other ladies walk in too, because they want to congratulate her, but they're like, no, this wasn't really a good idea for her to be doing this to herself. But I like that they have those moments where they all surround each other, and they really, like, helped Malin to be okay with the situation. Because they said what doesn't kill you only make you stronger.
Well, and they say something that's kind of alludes to the fact, I wish I would have found it. Where they say something about dying.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of alludes to the fact that she's probably not going to make it after the fact.
Like a foreshadowing. But they're at the shop at Truby's she's getting her hair cut, and she cries because of how short she cut it. Which I'm sure about down south back then, that was like a big deal to cut all your hair off like that.
And see, I wonder if that was a little foreshadowing too, of what was going to happen, because she said she just didn't like messing with it anymore. But I think her and Malin had already made the decision that they were going to go through with the kidney transplant.
Yes.
And they hadn't told everybody, and that's why she was getting it cut short.
Yeah, well, she wanted a manicure, and that was when Truby seen her arms.
Yes, from the dialysis.
Mm-hmm. And she has bad kidneys, and her mom's going to give her a kidney. She doesn't have to wait for a kidney like other people may.
And I don't know, that line, when Truby asks Malin, she's like, Malin, have you seen these? And she's like, yes, I have. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't like she's honest about it, but I'm like, and they've come up with a game plan, but at the same time, like the way she answered her, I'm just like, I
think it was her coping. It's a way for her to cope with it, because she probably cries at night knowing that her daughter looks like that. Well, at the beginning of that, Weezer walks in with those tomatoes, and she says, basically, she's waiting for her body to give out. And her and Clary go to the grocery store, and Weezer says she feels bad for saying that. Mm-hmm. It just breaks my heart, because she's playing with her little boy. She puts him in his costume, and Jackson comes home, and he finds Shelby unconscious. The house is in a disarray. The stuff on the stove's boiling over.
Well, she almost drops him. Like, I thought she was going to drop him and collapse. But yeah, and then I don't think she ever wakes up after that.
Her mom does not leave her side the whole time. She stays with her.
Well, she even gets mad at the husband, because he tries to say, hey, you need to go eat like a real dinner and take care of yourself. And she's like, no, what if she wakes up for 2 minutes and I'm not here? Mm-hmm. Like, she stayed with her, I think, more than Jackson did. Now, granted, Jackson has the baby.
They make the decision to turn off the machines. We never see any of that discussion. We just see him with the paper. Of course, Malin talks about it more towards the end. And then the next thing she does is she goes straight to Jack Jr.
And I'm sure that hurt, because she probably didn't have the say like Jackson did of what happened. Yeah. I mean, that was out of her control too.
And then, of course, we're at the gravesite.
Her acting here that whole scene was done with one take.
Yes, it was. You're right.
And and she screamed into a pillow for hours before that scene, so her voice would be raw and raspy in order to be more evocative. And
she says, she's like, my head tells me Shelby wouldn't want us to be sad. She would want us to move on and be okay. She's like, but somebody can't tell my heart that. Mm-hmm. And she's angry, and she wants answers. And that is the sad part about death, is there's no answers to it. When she does that scene, I just can feel that. Like,
you can feel the pain, the hurt. Well, no one to know, gives her two pieces. And I was like, because that was not the right time or place for her to, and Malin handled it very, very well. Mm-hmm. But that was not the time and the place to be, I don't know.
No, I don't
You've got to know your audience, and Annelle didn't know her audience, like, at that time. Larry offers up Weezer. He's like, here, hit her. You can be the first one to take Weezer out. And Weezer's like, are you high, Clary?
Yeah. They got
to have a little moment after, and I thought that was cute. I love you more than my luggage. I mean, I don't know. I like that line too. There are so many good scenes in this movie. I mean, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, Olympia Dukakis, who plays Clary.
Yes, we probably should talk about her.
Yeah, she just recently passed. Mm-hmm. I think she was 80. How old was she?
80s, yeah.
I think 89, maybe?
May she rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
I really like her. overall as an actress and as a person, she just carries herself, just the way she carries herself. She's very confident and just comes off very proper.
Well, and the way I think she was a good, what do you call it when the characters are, she's a good opposite of Weezer and a good one to go up against her. Because I feel like the others go up against her too, but I feel like it's more, I don't know, she does it better than the rest of them. You can tell there's a different friendship there. There's a different connection between the two of them than even with Malin and Weezer.
And then they're at the Easter egg hunt, and that's when Annelle goes into labor.
Yep. Well, I don't know. I just thought this movie, I don't know. I loved the movie, but I feel like it ended so abruptly. Like with her, I don't know, with them being rushing her. And why was Truby's husband taking her to the hospital and her husband's nowhere to be seen?
Well, yeah. Well, he is at the end. He's on
the motorcycle with Truby's son, I think.
Okay.
I think that was her son. And so I don't know. Just them following them through the streets, kind of. I don't know. I feel like to me, it ended very. I'm like, did I miss something? Like, what happened that I just missed that they ended it? So I don't know. I felt like it was ended very abruptly to me.
Yeah, it was. Stories like this type of movie, it could go on and on. I mean, it could go forever because you could always just follow these women and always hear a story with them. And I feel like you do kind of, in this situation, have to end it abruptly. Like, where do you end it? You got to quit somewhere.
Yeah.
But I like that at the beginning it was the Easter time. It was Easter time, and then at the end it's Easter time.
Well, and I think we need to mention that Annelle had said that, or told Malin that she was going to name the baby Shelby. And she's like, well, what if it was a girl? And they said, well, what if it was a boy? And she's like, Shelby. Well, and then when little Jack Jr. runs from Weezer.
Called it Clary.
Yeah, it was Clary. Clary kind of told him a story about the mean Weezer, Malin's husband, and Weezer. They have a, well, I think it's more hate than love, like a love-hate relationship. And she gives him the bottom part of the armadillo.
He says, like, I like a good piece of ass.
Yes. Yeah. There are so many, there are good one-liners in this. Really and truly, there are. Like when she tells him to, we're cussing a lot, but like to basically eat crap and die. Like she tells him that. When did we talk about the grocery store one or where she said that she did say hi to him? She's like, I'm happy. Yeah. I've just been in a really bad mood for 30 years. Yeah.
I love it. This is a good movie. It's well written. It's, like you said, it's got a lot of those just one-liners, those little tiny moments that make it one. Really, it's all these little moments that make it one big moment.
Based on a true story. The brother of her, the one that actually did pass from diabetes and having a surgery and not coming out of the surgery, having a baby. I guess he got upset with the husband because the husband moved on very quickly. Her husband moved on very quickly, like 6 months after he was with somebody. And so he was just very angry. And so I went to therapy and they told him to like write about it. So he started and it just wasn't working out. He tried it as like not a screenplay, but as a poem and just that kind of stuff. And it wasn't working. So he met with people and they got this. And like, so Malin is based off his mom and obviously and all of that. So yeah, so it's based on a true story. And she did, all of that did happen. She did go in for surgery and didn't make it out of surgery. Now, because he made it sound, because I watched, the special features, he made it sound like she, I guess technically in the movie she didn't make it out of the surgery either, but she did live a little bit after that. So it's like, I don't know if literally she went in and just didn't wake up from it or, I don't know. He didn't really go and even, him doing the interview, he kind of like, you could still tell that it's still fresh with him. They were a very close-knit family. So he hired the doctors and nurses who actually tended to Susan Harling, which is the basis for Shelby. Her name was Susan Harling. During her last days in the hospital to play themselves during Julia Roberts' scenes on life support. So when you see them take her off life support, that's really a real nurse that really did tend to her doing that.
Again, to think about that, to do it a second time. I bet you
Well,
that
her mom was on set. Her mom was on set watching it. Yeah, and he's like, Mom, you don't have to stay. And she's like, he said that he felt she wanted to see Julia get up and walk away because her daughter didn't.
I read that.
Her daughter didn't. And she wanted to see Julia Roberts get up and walk away. And I think Shelby kind of knew that too, I think, for sure. Because she's like, he'll be a little piece of me and Jackson. And I'm thinking she was foreshadowing too, again, the fact that when I'm not here, he's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, that will be a piece of me. So, and she wanted that. Because she's like, you can adopt. And she's like, but I want my own baby. I want a piece of me.
That was Still Magnolias. Let us know in the comments. Wish your mother a happy Mother's Day if you want, down below. This will come out a little later than Mother's Day, but that's what we're doing it. But let us know. We would love to hear from you. And until next time, I am Tiffany. This is my BFFF, Shelley. Join us next time, friends, for another great episode.